What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz of The Void, where we talk about the things that go unnoticed, or probably not unnoticed, but not talked about as much as the Batman. Variety has a feature on the state of the Hollywood franchises. There's an update on Highlander. Cavill injured. Bautista comments on what's happening with that. More news on the Miami Vice movie. Very interesting casting. Possibly, I don't know if it's rumored, but or confirmed. I think it's confirmed. I'm not sure. DiCaprio starring in Heat 2. Interesting. I didn't know this, or I'm not sure how he is being introduced as whom. I'm not sure. Tatiana Maslany, IG, calling for people to cancel Disney Plus, and we'll talk about at the end about someone who recently passed away that has certainly a huge impact on the movie industry. Hollywood franchises, Brian. What's going on there?
Variety ran a piece. We could just spend a couple minutes on it. I thought it was interesting where they tried to basically rank the IP. They came up with a survey and a poll and a scoring system to focus on 8 of the biggest movie brands that are out there and kind of power rank them and see where things are at. The 8 that they have, are sort of the obvious ones, right? You got DC, you got Marvel, you got Star Wars, you got Bond, you got Mission Impossible, you got Jurassic, you got Star Trek, you got the Hunger Games. Those are the ones that I think I could have done some. I don't know about the Hunger Games. Like for me, it was like you could have done Harry Potter, you could have done Lord of the Rings. There's others that could have been on this list, but I think the number one thing that jumps out to me when I see this, and maybe it's not a surprise, but DC tops Marvel in this survey. Hollywood is more excited and more positive coming off of this summer. And this includes, we're talking about producers, agents, actors, right? So if you think about casting developments and who wants to be in what project, like Hollywood is clearly saying right now, they would rather be in a DCU project than an MCU project. And that to me is a big, big win for James Gunn.
If you've been watching this show, guys, the guys that come every week to listen to what we gotta say, we've been talking about this for some time, that the tide has been turning. The pendulum is swinging towards, what they say in House Party. I don't know if you ever saw House Party with Kid and Play. When the momentum swings from you to me, right? This is where we're at. The momentum is swinging over to the DCU because I think, and I still believe, people have a little bit of MCU fatigue. So this is interesting. And this is not new to us in terms of discussions that we've had, because we already felt this. Continue.
I'm going to give you the quote on DC and the quote on Marvel because I think it's very telling. So the quote on Marvel, we can debate these later, but here's what the execs and the creatives they interviewed for this are saying. One top agent, MCU is still a crazy life-changing opportunity, but I do not have as many clients asking to do one as they were 5 years ago. That's important. Talent is he said, Avengers movies are still, quote, bulletproof. We'll see. But standalone movies are in trouble because you feel like you can miss it now. And while any one movie could be huge, nothing is close to a guarantee, end quote. I think that encapsulates exactly where we are with the MCU. I think it's perfect. DC, and this goes to when you see our Batman shows, think about this quote alongside what we just talked about. Quote, Gunn did the most important thing. The first movie he made was really good. If Batman and Superman are humming at the same time, there is no limit to what they can do, end quote. That's the perception. This is why, if you have any doubt who's going to write and direct Batman, this quote is why it will be James Gunn.
Yeah.
So that's some kind of industry executive saying that. Now, here's one where I think you and I are more optimistic than it seems like the consensus, which is interesting about DC, what held them back in the rankings. The 2026 slate. A marketing exec in Hollywood. I wish Supergirl and Clayface were not the next ones, but it looks like a pretty confident first step, end quote. We would disagree with that, I think.
Yeah.
But Hollywood is nervous. Hollywood is like, we like Superman, but we wish Batman was coming
Of
next year. That's what it
course.
says, right? That's that we don't love this. We don't love this, like, and this goes to our point about when you're James Gunn, don't mess around too much because Hollywood is sitting there being like, "You're making us nervous with" now we're excited, but Hollywood's like, "Yeah, Supergirl Clayface, we don't know, man. That might be a little much. Like, just stick to the" that's interesting to me.
I would feel like they feel if the word if the title of the authority was up in there, if that would be that would make me nervous. That would make me feel what they're feeling.
But to Gunn's credit, it made him nervous. It made him nervous enough to basically walk away from the project. I mean, we've done a lot where we talk about the flaws of James Gunn, but we gotta give James Gunn some credit for some of the business decisions where 200 million budget authority, you and I would be sitting here being like, if Superman's a $600 million movie, you're dead in the water on a $200 million budget authority movie. So he wisely backburnered that. And instead, we're getting a $30 to $40 million budgeted Clayface movie and a $75 to $100 million budgeted Supergirl movie. That to me looks like good business. That doesn't look like a guy who's just like willy-nilly, I like this character, I like that character, let's go make that. So I got, and maybe that's Saffron, maybe that's Gunn, whoever, but that to me looks like good business, even if Hollywood seems to think it's kind of TBD. Also scoring perhaps higher than you and I would have it, but it just goes to show you Jurassic is still up here on this list. Quote, distribution executive, dinosaurs do not seem to be going out of style, and it doesn't matter if it's Jeff Goldblum, Chris Pratt, or Scarlett Johansson. So here's the funny thing. Rebirth kind of came and went from our perspective. We talked about it a little bit. Just under 900 million global against much lower budget. I think it was like between 100 and 150 because Gareth Edwards knows how to make movies without breaking the bank. So when you step back and look at the summer from an IP perspective, the highest grossing movie was Lilo and Stitch. Second highest grossing movie was Jurassic. Still. And they've already said the next ScarJo Jurassic has been greenlit. Of course it has. Because this franchise just makes money.
I don't know.
Another quote. See, this goes to remember we were ranting about the Sony executive last week? Here's a quote about Jurassic franchise. The quality has been all over the plate, all over the map, but it's almost like a CBS procedural of a blockbuster. It doesn't affect it at all, end quote. That's it. It's just dinosaurs, man. Like dinosaurs sell.
Because of the kids or whatever the case may be, they want to see dinosaurs. I think that's what it is. Oh, it has to be.
Star Wars. This one was the most controversial. Both sides of the aisle weighed in on this. So as we know, Mando Grogu next year will be the first movie since Rise of Skywalker. It's been a TV franchise since. Quote, one marketing executive said, it is still omnipresent, and it still should be the biggest franchise of all time. But when you don't have a film to show for 7 years, that's just not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And the next example is just going to be a derivative film based on a television show, end quote. There's the bear case of Mando Grogu. You were trying to elevate a TV series and not enough people care. That's effectively what that's saying. A producer, unnamed, weighs in on the other side and said, and this I think is correct. They stopped making it special, and nothing makes me more mad. But the sky is the limit if they could get it right, end quote. I think that's still true.
Yes.
I think if we lined up a great Marvel movie, a great DC movie, and a truly great Star Wars movie, I think the Star Wars movie outgrosses the two comic book houses still. I think that's still true.
Does it start with Dawn of Justice?
Dawn of the Jedi.
Dawn of Justice. Sorry. No, Justice. Oh my God. I was watching it yesterday anyway. I was like, what the hell is this? But yes. Yes, Dawn of the Jedi is something that we've been excited for, and it's happening, and I'm interested to see what that does because I think it can be huge because that is the beginning. Who doesn't want to see the beginning? Right? That's going to be interesting.
But I think that's still telling about how Hollywood thinks about this. They still see the potential. No matter how much damage has been done, the quotes kind of tell you like, it should be number one. It can be number one. It's just they're messing it up right now. That's the mentality. I'm saying that's right or wrong. That's the mentality of Hollywood. Now, the big riser on the rankings, just the last one, and we'll move on. James Bond. Bond
Okay.
under the control of Amazon. the hiring of Villeneuve got Hollywood excited. When you read basically it's all about him. You got one of the great filmmakers of the modern era, says one studio executive. Denny made Dune accessible and profound. He could do the same with Bond. Tens across the board. That was the hottest job in town, end quote.
Yeah, yeah.
That I agree, but it is interesting to me that it still shows, as we've said, there's this class of director, and Villeneuve is in that class, that when they attach their name to something, especially something IP, it changes the game. Coogler, Nolan, like there's still these few names that when they show up at the top, it just everything is different.
I'm sure uh that same sort of sentiment will crash if Tom Holland forces his way in.
Um, that's so funny. Now, the one caveat to this, which I'll leave you with, which is fair, I think this is totally true. Marketing executive, quote, "The scarcity of Bond worked in their favor. If Amazon starts building a Bond universe, how much does that dilute the brand?" End quote. I think that is the real question.
I think there certainly is a rich a universe that can be built around Bond, but Bond has to stay exclusive to the big screen. And I think you have an opportunity if you build this universe on Amazon, you do shows, right? That eventually lead to Bond's participation in whatever's going on in the Amazon series and into movies where you need his touch on this case or whatever the case may be. So you can have you can call a show Double O's, right?
Yeah, I 100% think that's coming. I don't forget how many there are. I assume there's 9, but like other than Sean Bean and Lashana Lynch, we've never seen any of the other ones. They're out there,
And in this Double O's, these Double O's don't survive.
which is great, by the way, for the stakes. Like, great to have like adventures where a couple of them may not make it and some of them do. And like, I think it works, but it is a question, but I think
Give
it
us a
does.
call, Amazon.
When we start pitching, we both I think we got a couple of these different,
Hells yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's the take. DC over Marvel. Star Wars is still kind of number one if they get it right. Jurassic is still Jurassic, and Bond is the hot riser. That's the hottest commodity right now among IP.
Highlander updates. Cavill gets injury. Have they spoken about the injury in detail, or is just that he's injured?
No, I mean, he got injured enough in pre-production training that they were supposed to be shooting this fall. Now they're shooting, I think, in the first quarter of next year. So that's a pretty sizable delay. So that would probably say he hurt something enough that it's either a long rehab or a surgery. And he's a pretty, as
Sort
we
of
know,
ankle, knee injury, possibly.
yeah, it sounded like he was training. Probably, yeah, I said, did Bautista get him already?
You see him standing over him in practice.
Could be only one. Yeah, he's already. Bautista weighed in on getting the part, and we probably don't talk about him enough because he's a chameleon and just does real work. Man, we are lauding The Rock for even trying. This guy's been doing it for over 10 years. And he has done the thing we've always said The Rock should do, which is he finds great directors, interesting parts, different genres, and he tries them and he goes for them.
Yeah, he's a put me in, coach, and I'll do whatever it is you need me to
He
do.
wants
And
to
if, as a
learn the
director, that's what
craft.
you want.
He
Yes.
wants to learn the craft of acting as opposed to just being a persona.
Correct.
So the Highlander thing is interesting because he said, quote, "This one goes back a long time because I've been chasing this role. I tweeted, I don't remember this, about the role, about being the Kurgan 10 years ago. I've been chasing this role like I've been chasing the Marcus Fenix role in Gears of War just because I was a huge fan of the original Highlander. I love Clancy Brown and his performance as Kurgan, and I always wanted to be the Kurgan. There was something magical about that role. He's the villain I love to hate. Same with wrestling. I always liked being the bad guy, and that was the kind of role I've been searching for as far as being the bad guy." I thought his casting was a big deal.
Yeah, and he's also been trying to get Bane too. Just throw that in there.
Which I'm all for that if he wants to do that. And he has said, by the way, James Gunn keeps telling him there's something in the DCU they are writing or holding for him, but he doesn't know what it is. Maybe it is Bane. I don't know, but he's said that. That's out there.
Mhm.
We also did get the confirmation, Chad Stahelski and the crew who did John Wick are trying to do something similar with the choreography for Highlander. So this is the quote from Bautista on that. I was so blown away by the script because this is such a great reboot. We're still paying tribute, we're giving nod to the original, but it really makes it new, fresh, and exciting. It's just so much bigger than the original. We know that from the budget. The budget's a real budget. The action is on par with the John Wick franchise. I'm afraid I'm going to say too much. I don't want to give anything away, but I think people are going to be blown away because it's bigger than you could imagine, and it's new enough that you won't be seeing the same thing, so that if you saw the original, you're still not going to know what the full story is, end quote. I like the original. It's kind of a cult hit. It wasn't really a big commercial success. I think this has real potential. I still think there's a real sleeper franchise starter coming in 2027, call it.
I mean, again, you have Cavill, and Cavill is just if it was anybody else, I think it would still fall under the radar. But because Cavill is in it, and we've seen what he's capable of doing with the look, with the sword, and now you have Bautista. It is looking to be something interesting, not only for the Highlander fans, but for regular audiences as well. That um, hold Henry Cavill as someone they would want to see in the theaters or in any
Yeah,
role.
and they've got, Russell Crowe as the Sean Connery
There you
character,
go.
and
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
the other
yeah.
day they added was Jaimin Hansu as, another sort of the one always good as one of the immortal supporting characters. Um, you know, they this is looking like a real movie. That's what I'm sort of saying. Like, this is a serious deal that they're putting money into, and it's another Amazon play here for franchise. So we know they're leaving no stone unturned. So I'm excited for this. I'm bummed by the injury, but I'm really excited for when it comes to theaters.
Kaczynski's Miami Vice
Let's do a quick one on this.
looking
Yeah.
better and better.
Yeah, look at so they formalized the release date for, June of was it June or August? August of 2027, but really sounds like a passion project for him, and he's got the writer from Andor, Dan Gilroy. He's gonna write this for him.
Oh my God.
See, this is why I love Kosinski, because he doesn't always have to write his own stuff. This is why I've kept saying for DC, for comic books, you guys have to get, even for Star Wars, get this man in the door because he doesn't monopolize the project. He's got the writer of Andor writing a Miami Vice reboot that is supposedly focused on, inspired by the pilot episode. It's supposed to reek of sort of recalling the glory of the 80s in Miami. And like, listen, man, between F1 and Top Gun Maverick, nobody does vehicular better than this guy. Like, you talk about boats, cars, planes, helicopters. I mean, I think this is going to look awesome. Now, how does this not? I think it's going to look awesome, sound awesome, and be really cool. So we don't know casting on this, but we know timeline, we know writer, we know director, and we know style. And all of it to me is reeking of this will be a must watch for 27.
Because I sent you a text or a picture of what possible casting that they're looking for, and it was
Okay.
Austin Butler and Aaron Pierre
Oh, well, that could
as
definitely work as Crockett and Tubb. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see, we'll see. But that's Kaczynski and now Dan Gilroy writing is like
You gotta care.
yeah, you gotta care. So what's DiCaprio starring in Heat 2?
Yeah, so Heat 2 is happening. It is s the there's a book that Michael Mann put out. So it's kinda like Godfather 2. It's both a prequel and a sequel. So that's why the casting kinda has 2 parts to it. So the hot rumor has been Austin Butler is the Chris Shiherlis character, the Val Kilmer character. Adam Driver, I think, was supposed to be the Neil McCauley character, but then now they're saying, because I think DiCaprio's production company has been involved with this, supposedly now they've sat down with him and he might actually be taking over one of the lead roles in one of the timelines. Which, look, I
Mhm,
mean, let's not mince words. If you get Leonardo DiCaprio to headline your movie just changed its profile. And I think Heat
mhm,
2, to me, always seemed like a huge risk commercially because Mann always likes big budget. But Michael Mann commercially has not really been that successful a director in over a decade. I mean, like Ferrari was an expensive
mhm.
movie that I think is enjoyable to watch, but it's kind of forgettable. And Heat 2 is going to be one of those sprawling epic tales that has a huge budget, like, I don't think Heat 2 is like a $750 million worldwide movie. So the only way this can really work for you is if you can make it award level. And if you can get those guys as your leads, and if DiCaprio himself thinks enough of it that he wants to interject and take over, I mean, I don't even care. Like, obviously, he doesn't look like Al Pacino, but like, is he going to take over the Vincent Hanna role? That would be the most logical one in some sort of prequel capacity or sequel. It almost doesn't matter. Like, I think if they get him, this movie can be much more than it was before.
We'll see. We'll see. Tatiana
Yeah.
Maslany on IG calling for people to cancel Disney
This is
Plus.
after, of course, the Jimmy Kimmel situation. She immediately posted a picture of her She-Hulk mask and was calling on people to get rid of their subscription. You know, she's been pretty vocal about her time as She-Hulk, to say the least. If there's a Maslany hive that wants her back as She-Hulk, I'm not aware of it. I know there were people that did like this show, even though we kind of thought it was everything that we figured it would be and less. But the jokes, of course, have been flying since she posted this about like, well, guess She-Hulk isn't going to be getting one of those chairs on stage for Doomsday.
Hell no.
And I don't think anyone's missing that.
And who
Who's missing that
knows?
though? That's what I'm saying. Like, if there's no
Nobody.
She-Hulk in Doomsday or Secret Wars, who cares?
Who cares?
If you guys are going to the movies, I haven't been in the movies in the last couple of weeks, but I will go back because Tron Ares is coming. I don't have to see that. But like, supposedly there's a He-Man cutout in some theaters now around the world that has Nicholas Galitzine in the cartoon accurate costume with the straps and the logo, astride Battle Cat in armor. That supposedly appeared on the floors of certain cinemas recently, which immediately gets you on the alert for the first teaser if that's the case. But there's a picture going around online of him on top of what looks to be a mammoth battle cat.
I'm trying to find it, but that is, I'm telling you, man, I will be shocked if He-Man doesn't make $1 billion. I'll be shocked.
Oh,
I'll be shocked, Brian. Shocked. Shocked.
I think
Shocked,
500 million
shocked,
would be an
shocked.
amazing outcome for a franchise.
If this is PG-13,
Oh, it will be.
Brian,
It will be PG-13. Yeah, it's not gonna be R.
and how they introduced the first sort of look as to what they're going for in that teaser sort of video that they put out in multiple languages. This is going to be a global box office of $1 billion.
Wow.
I'm saying it right now. You
Well,
heard it
hey,
here
Pablo
first
was on
the
Super
Nerd
Mario
Jet
Brothers
Report.
before anybody else, and that wound up being a massive nostalgic play. So we'll see. But anyway, that puts me on alert. First teaser. If you put merch in the theater, if that's true, then we might be closer to getting some footage than we previously thought.
I hope so. When is it supposed to come out?
It's next June, right? Yeah.
And next, and on a more somber note, we've certainly lost a legend in the movie industry. Robert Redford passed away a week ago.
A couple days ago, yeah, 89. Yeah, a few days. Yeah, start of the week,
yeah.
age 89. Yeah.
Obviously, Robert Redford has done a lot in his career, and it's been a lot of memorable roles. The one role that I, when it's on, I watch all the time is him in what's the baseball
Natural.
movie?
That's it. That's
The
it.
Natural. I watch that scene every single time.
I love that film. I don't care what they did to the book. He is amazing in that movie. That movie's amazing. The baseball scenes are amazing. Yeah.
We gotta talk about one day our favorite baseball movies, because I have my favorites. But and then of course, in the best comic book movie ever created, The Winter Soldier, which he had a large part in it being and giving it that look and feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian. And we'll always, I guess, I think, remember all of his performances. But for me, those performances are the ones that I remember the most, right? Anything you
And we
want
connected
to
to the genre because of Winter Soldier, and it's funny because when the Russos were out promoting that, and they were like, "Yeah, we're trying to echo '70s political thriller," and I'm like, "Well, you literally did that because you brought in the guy who, you know, All the President's Men and kind of did those type of movies, and he does it right in that movie. Like some of his expositions are classic Redford. You know, they really ground some of that commentary, and he's great as sort of a, you know, version of himself. And Alexander Pierce, I agree. Roy Hobbs is still, like, for me as a kid, was like when I first saw that movie, he was larger than life. That's how and he was already established, right? So that's like how I came to Robert Redford. I will say also for my dad, and I think for a lot of people in the prior generation, Jeremiah Johnson, I think, is a very important movie. He plays a mountain man, kind of struggling in the wilderness, and I think it's
Ah,
one of his earlier roles. But I think that's one that I know from my father's generation. Some say he's up there still. There's a real connection to that. But Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, The Sting, his partnership with his partnerships, right? Paul Newman, Dustin Hoffman. I think this is a guy who also was known in many ways as being able to share while being a leading man. And even in the modern era, I think one that's actually underrated that I revisit and I really enjoy is Spy Game. I don't know if you've seen that, where he's a retiring CIA executive and a younger Brad Pitt is his protege who has been imprisoned in like a Chinese prison. And it's a cat and mouse game inside headquarters where Redford is kind of trying to figure out a way to rescue him while being trapped in basically his exit interview after his career. Tony Scott
mm.
directs it, so it's like really kind of quick cut, all this sort of stuff. But I think that's a really underrated movie that if you haven't seen, I'd recommend you go check out. But Redford is one of those sort of timeless leading men. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Like I think everyone knows the image, knows the face. The other one I was thinking of that I really loved, I think it's underrated but now really topical, is Sneakers. I love that movie with him and Ben Kingsley, Dan Aykroyd, Sidney Poitier. It's like an old school computer heist movie. But do yourself a favor and watch it and listen to some of the monologuing in that movie from 30 years ago and think about it in the context of the war for information today. It is ahead of its time. So Robert Redford, full life at 89, but one of the icons of filmmaking that we lost.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all the void topics that we've discussed today. Let us know in the comment section below what Robert Redford film that you mostly connect with or remember. And yeah, we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.